would like to give the floor to the governing mayor of Berlin, Klaus Wowereit.
Mr. Klaus Wowereit, the mayor of Berlin.
Excellencies, President Mikhail Gorbachev, dear Walter Veltroni, President of the EU Commission, Mr. Barroso, dear Peace Nobel laureates, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I am very pleased to be able to welcome you at the Berlin Town Hall on the 10th summit of the Nobel Peace Laureates. I'm very pleased that you chose Berlin as a location to host this conference. A very warm welcome to all of you in the Berlin Town Hall. It is a great honor for the reunited city of Berlin to be the host of your conference. With your personalities and actions, you are the flagship of a peaceful coexistence of humanity. You stand for the fact that we accept one another as equal regardless of origin, race, color or religion or way of life. Your youngest colleague, the Nobel Peace Laureate of this year, Barack Obama, said 1 year ago, Berlin is the city that knows best the dream of freedom. All of us can feel that Berlin is not only knowing the dream of freedom, Berlin is living it, and it loves its freedom. Berlin inspires everybody to live in freedom. People come to Berlin because this city is open for new things, because it is full of energy sources, and because it offers space for shaping new things. It is marked by diversity and tolerance, by an international atmosphere and an openness towards the world. But Berlin is also a city where people live together who come from 180 different countries, so it is our daily business to make sure that peaceful coexistence is possible and that we shape our future together. All of us are still much impressed by the Festival of Freedom yesterday, which was a strong message to the whole world from Berlin. I would like to thank all the participants at this Festival of Freedom. I think most of you were present yesterday. What was possible 20 years ago, what was happening in Berlin, was that people showed their courage, and with their commitment they changed the world. This is something that is still possible. Each and every one of you was honored for your actions by the Nobel Peace Committee. Berlin is the place that became a symbol of profound change due to the fall of the wall. Berlin has become a symbol of freedom for the world. Now it is important that we understand freedom in a more broader sense as an opportunity for all the people living on our planet to live a life in self-determination, a life without violence, a life in security, a life in an intact and holistic and just society, a healthy life in dignified living conditions. The walls of our present times are still very thick. The walls between poor and rich, the walls that separate us from a solution to our climate problem, and the walls that are separating us from a world without violence, in which human rights do not only exist on paper, but are respected for each and every one of us. The late Nobel Peace Laureate Willy Brandt wrote in his goodbye letter to the Socialist International, even after the epochal change in 1989 and 1990, the world did not only become a good world, an exclusively good world. Our times offer various opportunities for the good and for the worse. And Willy Brandt was a very wise man, and he added, nothing comes just as a normalcy, and only few things last. This is why we need to rely on our strengths and to make sure that we find the right answers to the questions of our times, and that we have to live up to the challenges if we want to do good. Willy Brandt had a very sober vision. He knew that the task was enormous, but he wasn't discouraged. He had so much courage to take great steps, important steps, and do good. We need such courage also today to tear down the walls of our times and to seize the opportunities for the better. This requires courage, civil engagement, commitment, and the mobilization of worldwide solidarity. We need credible role models that pave the way and provide orientation. Yesterday we could see, all of us could see, that we are marked by a desire for a world without walls, a world in which we can live together in peace across the world. Ladies and gentlemen, Nobel Peace Laureates, I would like to thank you for not only seeing the Nobel Peace Prize as a recognition of your merits for peace, but also as an incentive to work for the better in today and tomorrow. I hope that you commit yourself with all your moral authority to find the right solutions for the questions of our times in the very sense of Willy Brandt, that you create networks across the globe and pave the way for us to join forces and tear down the walls of our times that are threatening our world and blocking development. In this sense, thank you very much for your commitment. I'm sure that the reunited and free city of Berlin will be inspiring you. I wish this conference every success and plenty of results that will lead us the way to a world without walls. You will always be welcome to the Red Town Hall of Berlin. Once again, a very warm welcome to all of you here in Berlin. All the best for your conference.
Mr. Walter Veltroni, co-president of the summit. Jetzt gebe ich das Wort an Walter Veltroni, co-president des Gipfeltreffens.
Monsieur le Maire, mon ami Klaus.
Mr. Mayor, my friend Klaus, Michael, President of the Summit, Mr. Barroso, President of the European Commission, and all Nobel Peace Prize laureates. I would like to thank Klaus Wowereit for this wonderful welcome that he has offered us, and this wonderful festival also that we were able to celebrate. If dates and places have a particular important significance, and I believe that that is very often the case, then I believe that this 10th installment of the Summit of Nobel Peace Prize laureates, taking place here in Berlin, to the day 20 years after the fall of the Berlin Wall, is of a particular symbolic importance. This day in 1989 remains, for all of us who witnessed it, an unforgettable event. The wall was like a scar that crisscrossed a city and Europe in its entirety. It was not only an iron curtain that separated physically millions of individuals from liberty and democracy, it was also a kind of compass at the service of numerous governments in the world. It traced a mandatory path. It differentiated friends from foe. It differentiated truth from error. You were either on one side or you were on the other side. But that was the age of ideologies that has long since been overcome. Once the wall came down, everything seemed to change. Distances seemed to shrink, and fears were dispelled. New discourses emerged that seemed to suggest that interdependence, at least of cultural policies, between countries would prevail. Of course, things happened differently. It is true, Germany was reunified, such as the German people, and Europe has progressed far beyond everything that anybody could have imagined then. But hate and war have also prevailed. They've redesigned the frontiers in the Balkans. The events in Sarajevo and Srebrenica happened. Of course, globalization and the interconnection of markets and the integration of economic systems have brought new advantages and possibilities. But there have also been new forms of alienation, new isolations, new forms of social exclusion. The gap between North and South has attained vertiginous dimensions, and people are suffering from malnourishment, and their number has attained the record number of more than a billion. Without mentioning the danger of a new nuclear era, or global warming, or even the way in which humanity entered the 21st century through the fiery doors ablaze of September 11th, 2001. Everything reminds us that we are not simply assisting or witnessing the end of history, quite to the contrary of what some believed in 1989. We are living in a new era of insecurity. New divisions have been created. New hate earths have been alighted, and new walls have come to separate peoples and cultures and religions. Here in Berlin, at the foot of the Siegessäule, the Victory Column, Barack Obama, who was then Democrat candidate for the White House, declared that the walls that once separated allies on the one side and the other side of the Atlantic must not remain standing. The walls that separate rich countries and poor countries must not be left standing. The walls that separate races and tribes, indigenous and immigrants, Christians, Muslims and Jews, must not be left standing. That is a fact. There are still numerous walls that must be torn down. After, in a world that is rendered apparently chaotic by the frenetic rhythm of globalization, people and individuals are sometimes tempted by withdrawal. Indifference, that is what is engendered by this, affects millions of humans. It affects AIDS, malaria in Africa. It is indifference that contributes to the dissemination of the virus of racism and anti-Semitism. It is accomplice in tragedies that take place on a daily basis on the seas, crisscrossed by embarkations that carry a payload of despair and the hope of those who have abandoned their countries. It is an indifference also that has been accomplice to the lack of resolution with which the international community has tackled numerous conflicts that have been forgotten by the world. There is one only way that remains to go. You must only think about the number of walls that were broken by the furrow traced by the interreligious encounters organized in Assisi by John Paul II. So dialogue and cooperation, that is the only practical way for us to construct an era of peace. And this complexity calls for cooperation. And I believe that these values that led to the creation of the United Nations, i.e. universalism and multilateralism, are more topical, more important today than they were ever since the end of the Second World War. Today more than ever, because one fundamental hope remains from the fall of the wall and the end of the ideologies of the 20th century. That is, despite the risks of our era, despite the obstacles that are along the path, our societies are more open than they were.
Une année après s'est écoulée depuis ce 4 novembre où Barack Obama a été élu président des États-Unis. Les mois intenses qui ont suivi à l'évidence donnent déjà à des interprétations fort différentes mais légitimes. Le président Obama s'est également vu décerner la reconnaissance qui a déjà distingué quelques-unes des extraordinaires personnalités qui participent aujourd'hui à ce sommet, les prix Nobel de la paix. Mais je crois que la signification la plus profonde de ces élections reste inchangée une année plus tard. L'espérance peut vaincre la peur. L'ouverture aux autres et des messages d'interdépendance mondiale peuvent être plus forts que le repli sur soi et le retranchement derrière ses propres barrières mentales. Le changement peut être un objectif plus ambitieux et plus suffisant, même dans des temps difficiles, que le conservatisme et le maintien de chaque chose à sa place, injustice et inégalité comprises. Je crois que c'est en nous laissant guider par ces principes que nous pourrons écarter les risques majeurs que les défis de notre temps nous imposent et nous engager sur la seule voie